Hi everyone and welcome to Conversations with Hlophe. I'm Hlophe Modise and today we're talking about art and seeing art through the lens of the artist. And I'm joined by an incredible artist by the name of Hlophe. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Do you hear my voice? Is it giving art? Art connoisseur.
It is giving art.
Lwazi, thank you so much for honoring my invite and coming to talk about art. And yeah, I have so many questions because we talked about a lot.
We talked about
you know,
a lot,
but we could just start off by you maybe introducing yourself and telling us how your art origin story started.
Okay, thank you for the invite. I'm Lwazi Hlophe. I am an artist. You wanted to know how my journey
Give us
started.
your background. What happened?
So I started making art or started making pictures before I went to school, right? And I would go as far as school was a very traumatic place for me, right? Because I was the kid that was drawing, tearing out magazines with my cousins. And then I was allowed to ride my bike as far as I can, however I wanted to ride it. And I would make my wire cars, right? But as a kid, I was just very, I don't know if imaginative is the right word. My first car was a brick. Right?
I see what you mean.
And then it graduated and then it became a wire car. And I just had a steady hand, you know. Through primary, I drew a lot. And then in all my journeys, when I was doing art, there was always someone almost lighting the candle, you know. My best friend in primary school was Maxwell Ngaleka. Maxwell Ngaleka was an amazing drawer of faces, figures, and everything. So much so that I stole his book. You know, they called it health education, right? So we had to draw a doctor, right? Maxwell drew a doctor and the patient behind the doctor with the stethoscope. I was like, guy, there's no way you're drawing this and I'm not gonna copy it. So I stole his book. And then I took it home, I practiced until I could draw it better, right? So by the time I came back to school, I could draw it better. We had a fight at school.
It's so interesting how you remember these intricate details. That was so long ago.
Because because it still resonates with me, you know. Today, like there was always someone who was keeping me drawing, right? And then I'd be that kid that draws when the teacher is making notes or whatever, you know. I'd draw like part of the students and then I'd draw the teacher. One girl who's sitting next to me would scream, you know, Mistress Lwazi, you draw. You know, like, hey, you're not supposed to be drawing, you know. So I'd get in trouble for that, you know. And then as time went on, my mom became a teacher, right? And she had to produce teaching aids, right? So because she could see that I could draw, right? So she would give me, like, Lwazi, I need you to draw the sun, you know? I need you to draw a tree. I need you to draw a mother cooking. I need you, you know? And some of the techniques, actually, she would show me, says, no, I've got a friend. This is how she gives, like, her people color. Sharpen the pencil and then don't throw away the stuff that comes off the pencil. Use that and just take tissue that gives you like a nice tone, you know? So I'm like, oh yeah? Like, yeah, and so my technique just kept on rolling, right? And then after graduating from primary school to high school, I went to Athlone Boys High, when we were given the opportunity to choose subjects, and then I chose art. Had an amazing teacher called Mr. van der Linde. Mr. van der Linde also could see that I have a steady hand, so I took art on a higher grade. And I had amazing peers at the time as well, you know. One of them is actually C Live. You know the DJ, C Live? South African
interesting,
DJ.
yeah.
He is what people don't know about C Live Clyde, right? He could paint like Salvador Dali,
Sure.
right? And then there was a guy called Brian Mono and Muhao, right? Those were the three, I think, that like there was competition between us, right? And I could use charcoal, like at free will, like once you give me charcoal and paper, you know. So I took it right up to matriculated, and then I went to do interior design. First year interior design, my lecturers kept on saying, "What are you doing here? You should be doing fine arts." I was like, "No, but I don't see myself working as a fine artist. I don't know how they make money. Interior design is the thing to do, you know." And then during our bridging course, a 6 months bridging course, there was a guy called Sipho Mnanda. He taught us printmaking. There's a technique called printmaking. So when we were doing the printmaking, he kept on saying, "You are annoying because you are doing the things that I haven't told you to do, but you're doing them." You know, I'm like, "Are they wrong?" He says, "They are not wrong, but I haven't told you to do them." You know, that's why you annoy me, you know. But he had a side conversation with me, you know, which I am so grateful for. He said, "It's going to be hard to teach you, right? But if you keep on showing up and just doing your work, you will eventually get to where you want to get to, right? Your visual interpretation is not ordinary. I don't know where you get it from, because most people struggle just balancing the negative and the positive when they are doing printmaking. But your interpretation of it, I really like it. So you must just keep doing it, right?" So I was at Wits at that time at Doronfontein, but not having the words to name things, I was experiencing racism. So I'd go home and complain to my mother, "These people don't understand us. I feel like I'm wasting your money and doing all of these things, you know." And then that was my journey. And I think I stayed there for 2 years, and then I got a scholarship to study photography. And I studied photography at the Market Photo Workshop. I was there for 2 years, and then after the 2 years, I toured with the band.
Okay. Wait, what?
Yeah, so I was the tour manager for Malaika.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's great.
So, and then toured around. The one time we were moving from Polokwane to Bloem, we almost fell out of a plane, and we were stoned in Botswana.
What?
Because we were late. We were stoned in Botswana. And then after that, I was like, "No, man, I'm watching people here practice their talent and everything, and it's great that I get to travel with them. I'm taking pictures, enjoying myself." And then I went to show my portfolio at Y Magazine.
Oh.
Yeah. They gave me 3 assignments, and then met all their deadlines before, and then they hired me as their chief photographer.
Sure.
So I became the first young black chief photographer for Y Magazine.
You're so accomplished.
A little bit. A little bit. And then I started photographing musicians, moving around, and through just photographing everyone, you know. One of the first CD covers I did was Egam Shoza, and then I did DJ Fresh.
Jeez.
Photographed DJ Fresh CD cover, and then I think people started noticing my work after I photographed Unati's second album. Then Black Coffee came.
Sure.
Changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And once people started seeing CD covers I've done for Black Coffee, it changed the whole thing.
You know, the name dropping is ridiculous. Like, I just wanted to talk about art, but
So that's my journey. And then after I did the Legends of House cover at Y Magazine, I was like, okay, I've done what I could. And again, I started being turmoil. Then my wife bought me an easel, says, "You are more than a photographer. I just want to remind you."
Sure.
And then I just started drawing. Started drawing. 3 months in, someone from Australia came in and bought my collection for like huge amounts of money.
And then the question of, how do artists even make money? It's such an interesting journey of pivoting that you've kind of gone through, where you've found yourself at the right place at the right time.
Yes.
Do you find yourself translating that in your art?
Yes, I do. So naturally my hand was steady, but when I started photographing people, I started understanding form better, right? Like, I'm looking at you right now, there's a highlight on the side, and then there's a shadow on the side, right? So I could memorize your face easy, and then I can go home, and then I can draw you without looking. Because now I know your face, I know how you look like, I could just go like, oh, the braids were sitting like this. So photography helped me memorize things better. And then I could just reference from memory, and then I could just draw. So photography made me a better image maker, so to speak, when it came to drawing and painting. So that's how they feed off each other.
That's interesting. I feel duped, because now all the questions I had are useless. No, because I didn't realize how important, or how photography was so foundational to you now. Because then when I think of the vice, is that you can remember some really terrible things. And earlier we were talking about death.
Yes.
And how for you, you're just so terrified of it. And now I'm having a better picture of it. Why? Because now it's like you can remember every intricate detail of funeral and how people looked and how you felt at that moment because of this somewhat photographic.
Smells as well.
Smells as well.
I remember, I can remember smells like, oh, this, like someone would pass if, let's say we work together and there's a certain scent that you wear, and then maybe you've just moved out of the room and I come into a room, like, so-and-so is here. Like, how do you know? Like, okay, no, it's, she was here not so long ago. Because maybe your scent hangs in the air. Yeah. So that's why school for me was traumatic, because all these things that I used to connect, and make sense of life, now I had to sit still on the table behind the desk.
You couldn't be institutionalized.
Easily. Because I'm partly dyslexic as well, right?
Is that a gift also, in a way?
I think it is for me.
Yeah.
Other people see it as maybe a curse. For me, it's so easy, right? Let me make you an example. So many people, when they draw, they take like charcoal, and then they would draw with it and start making lines. For me, I'd cover the whole page black, right? And then I start taking away with an eraser or a putty rubber. Right?
Oh, wow.
And then it's like sculpting the paper, and then what starts to happen, and then the form starts coming out, right? It's like, okay. Yeah, so I work almost in reverse, right? And then like, oh, okay, the glasses were here, okay. Oh, the eyes were here, I remember, there's a shadow there, okay, cool. And then it starts coming out, and like, okay, because some of the images that I make, they come from a dream state. So I have to like dream, and it's like, this dream is repeating itself, it's so vivid, and then I do it, and I don't know what it is, but maybe after like 3-4 days, I'm like, oh, this is what this image is. Oh, okay, and then I complete it. It's that kind of
Yeah, this is so interesting to me because, you know, initially I wanted us to talk about, oh, how does a person purchase art? What should they look at?
No, we can talk about that.
I don't even care about that. They can Google that because I'm learning that your personal history is such, it's so genius. Yeah, like the way we talk about your Albert Einsteins and, you know, your Freuds, people who are considered, you know, leaders of thought in their respective industries. For you, I'm so fascinated. I think maybe like
thank you.
humility maybe dims it down a bit. I'm not really
Thank
sure.
you.
But I've wondered, I used to think that artists draw inspiration from darkness, or like depression, like I told you earlier. And that's when they might, you know, create some of their best pieces, which then in turn I find very traumatic and I just want to be away from.
Yeah.
But for you, it seems like it's the inverse. When there's peace and joy within, you create these very human and kind art pieces.
I'm glad you think so. But even the space that I create in it has to be calm, right? And I've learned to be quiet and reserved, you know, because I'm probably listening more, like what's happening, you know, what am I going to create or whatever. So even my space that I work in, you know, I kind of follow a routine. You know, you wake up, you pray, and then you are silent. You kind of try to remember a dream, but I have to burn incense. You know, unlike most artists, they work in like a cluttered space. I can't work in a cluttered space. Can't work in a cluttered space. I work in a serene, clean place. I need to see what I'm working on. I need to, if there's anything that's coming left or right, I need to see it so that when it lands, you know. Ray Charles actually has, I always ask people why Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles can play instruments and they can't see, especially a piano, right? And people come up with all sorts of answers, but the truth is, the F key and the E and the D, they're in the same place. Right?
Yeah.
Is it not true?
Yeah.
So when inspiration comes, they know where the piano is, right? So inspiration is not delayed. As it comes through, they're like, okay, this is what I'm hearing, and they play, right? So when other artists, their space is muddled up, it's maybe there's order in their chaos, in the chaos. But for me, I need to know where my paper is, my color pencils, my watercolor, my charcoal, so that when I hear it or when I see it, I don't wanna go, paper belila. This was the, you know, I wanna like, okay, here, okay, we're sitting down, we're doing it. So I can't work in chaos.
Right.
I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are making sense. This is so, I'm saying the word interesting a lot, but really I'm so intrigued by your processes and so on. And so I'm wondering also, when you do create, you talked a lot about form.
Yes.
And what disrupts, because when you think of form, you think of structure, you think of some sort of stability, but I wonder what disrupts that for you, and do you use that disruption as a way of creating form on form?
What disrupts it? My mother's gonna kill me. It's anything that's outside of my norm, right? So I've built a life that is quiet, so to speak, right? My circle of people that I move around is very small, right? It's literally my wife, my kids, my mother, and my mom's family. And I've got probably 7 friends. And we could go a year without speaking, but when we eventually do speak, it will feel like, right? And I'm lousy at making friends, right? So there's a routine in my life. It's just a routine, and it revolves around my work and my family, right? And then whatever I let in, I choose to let in. right? But sometimes I can't control it. It's out
Yeah.
of my control. Like the passing of my dad.
Yeah.
That disrupts everything, you know. Passing of my grandmother, that will disrupt everything. And for me to come back to my flow, it's going to take a while. I have to work it back so that it's quiet again, my center is quiet, and then I can create. Yeah. So anything that's out of the routine, that's abnormal. Even the guys that come and check the meter in the house, you know, like, how did I know that you not coming today? I would have prepared myself emotionally that you are coming, you know, and then, you know, and then I have to interrupt all the thoughts that I was doing this piece. They just go out the window, right? And then, you know, I have to deal with them. Okay, there's the meter box, check, and, you know. So that's what disrupts the flow. Anything that I can't control, that enters my quiet circle, and then it just disrupts everything.
Yeah, and do you find how do you relate with other artists' art that is somewhat disruptive? Let's say they rely heavily on disruption and it kind of displays or expresses itself in their art. So how do you relate with that kind of art as someone who likes stillness?
I avoid them.
Okay.
I do my utmost best to avoid them.
Yeah.
You know, like earlier we were talking about frequency,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and you kind of can feel like, this is not outside, you know. And then I would levitate towards the ones that are inspiring, right? And mostly, it's the music part. The music part plays a huge role. So visual artists, I tend not to, because then they might just contaminate or influence my style in a way that, and I don't even have a style, but maybe I'm not doing this right. Maybe this process is the right one.
Yeah.
But actually, my process is my process, right? And then that's what I do.
And then as you've grown as an artist and a really multifaceted being, from what I'm learning, what would you say has been your reason for being? I'm not really asking about your purpose or anything or what your great why is, but when you have your moments of reflection and are you able to pinpoint the reason or a reason in which you're doing this particular form
Make
of art?
sense of the world.
Oh, wow.
Make sense of the world.
For yourself as an individual or for
myself
others?
For myself as an individual. It's a human experience, right? So I don't know what I'm doing. Right? Strange as it may sound.
All right.
I don't know what I'm doing, right? But when I'm sitting down and making imagery and making art, right? It's like I'm writing. It's like a journal entry so that I can remember and map my way and say, oh, here, this is what was going on, this was going on. But all I'm doing really is just recording a human experience.
Sure.
And then what happens is that because it's a human experience, right? It resonates with Hlophe, right? Like, oh, I understand this. You know, like how you relate to the Matigizela piece, right? It's exactly what I wanted to capture. It's just to make Matigizela the mother figure, right? And it's just like it's so universal. You saw mother, I see her and see my mother, right? Like she reminds me so much of my mom.
Yeah.
That's this warrior person, but that's kind. That has humility, but strong at the same time, right? Like it has this dignity as well, you know. So when I do that piece, right, I'm recording what I'm feeling. Matigizela being the entry point, but when you look at it, you're like, I get it, without me saying anything. But when you look at the image, you're like, oh, okay, this is what it is. So what I mean is, when you ask me like, what's the reason? it's to make sense of the world and record a human experience.
Yeah. Sure. You know, we've been talking for like half an hour. I'm like, this
We
is
can
so crazy.
we can get to how you wanna buy art.
No, they'll go on your website. It's there. I saw, and I'm so grateful for this and how organic this whole conversation has kind of transpired because, you have a very like silent being, very quiet,
I try to be.
You do it well. You do it well, and I think. Well, I've been privileged to interact with your art, courtesy of Melithi, of course, because he's got all your art in his office.
Yes, he's an amazing collector of my work. I'm jealous of him.
He's got the great stuff. And
good
there's
stuff.
something that's non-imposing about your art. And it allows, in one of your articles, you talk about how certain art pieces can strike conversation. Funny enough, for me, it's an internal conversation within. Right, and like that's why I think it's not imposing. It's not in your face, trying to smother me with someone else's experience. And so I think in closing, I just want to know for you, what is it that you try to translate in your pieces that you find that you hope other people would get to experience for themselves? And I know you're very humble, so you're gonna be like, no. Whatever the experience, it's for them. But what is it that you hope? What is your great hope?
My greatest hope is that I would love for people to be in a dialogue with the piece.
Yeah.
Right? Because here's the reason why I say this. I get the inspiration or see something, right? But it's not complete, right? And then it comes through me, right? And then I do it, right? And at a certain point in time, while doing the piece, right? I'm lucky if I see my hand move.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it feels like something else is moving the hand or whatever, because I'm just there, I'm just thinking about life and then I'm just moving, right? I don't see everything that I'm doing, right? I might be thinking about it technically, like, does it appeal, does it stand out? Maybe I should make this a wash, maybe I should make this line harder so that the shadow is there, but all of that dissipates once the viewer stands in front of the piece. That is me. The piece itself is my experience creating it, but then the viewer completes the piece because they are bringing their own experience. Like looking at the elephant.
The elephant is a piece in that he's made.
Yeah. Looking at the elephant piece, right? Someone just sees an elephant as beautiful or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the collector of the elephant, when they look at it like, these are my people. Yeah. This is a totem, right? I'm Blue, right? We are these people, we are proud. We leaders, right? So when they look at an elephant, they bring that experience into the piece, right? And then there's a dialogue that happens, right? And what tends to happen most of the time is that how you feel the one day, you see something different. How you feel the next day.
Yeah.
So it's a continuous dialogue, right? So for me, that's what I hope for with the artwork that comes through me. I hope people engage with it, and it's a dialogue, right? I'll tell you about an experience I had about 2 clients of mine who went to bushfire and they saw Thandiswa Mazwai speak. They had just bought a piece called Iphupho lika Biko. Right? So it's Biko's dream. Yeah. As they are watching Thandiswa Mazwai, there's Biko images behind Thandiswa Mazwai, right? Here's the part. On Biko's piece that they have, there's a line that says, "Nizilibele ukuba nizalwa ngobani," right? And that's the song that Thandiswa Mazwai is performing.
What does that line mean?
Yo, maybe she's gonna
Yeah.
kill me. But it says, "Have you forgotten who's given birth to you?" Right? Meaning you come from a lineage of heroes like Biko, right? So when Thandiswa says that and they own the piece, then they start sending me messages like, "We get it now."
Yeah.
But even how Thandiswa was saying it, right? It was as if he was talking to just the two of them, like, "Have you forgotten who you are?" You know, which is the gist of the piece, you know, because when you look at it, I'll show it to you before I go.
They'll go on your website and they'll see it. Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me. That's what I hope people do. I hope they engage with the artwork. Even when visitors come through, they see it, they ask questions, and then it just transforms the room, and yeah, it lives on in that way. You know? It's an idea that just carries on.
Sure, Lwazi, this has been an experience, eh?
It has been. It's weird talking about myself.
Oh, but you do it well. You do it well.
It's so weird talking about myself. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. I'm just so grateful for this dialogue.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm levitating. Honestly, it's
Really?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You.
And thank you all so much for viewing. It's been absolutely spectacular. I think time just flies by. And I think that's just the beauty of art as well. It's very timeless. And don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. And we'll see you next time.